Hello, true believers. Time to do another Police Gone Wild video. This actually, I just saw this in my feed this morning, and as usual, it's the police involved. So, another police involved crime. Let's take a look at it. Over here is some footage from it, but let's go to the beginning of the news segment over here, and let's discuss.
Sa pagpapatuloy ng ating balitaan, sangkot ang ilang mga pulis sa pagkidnap at pagsunog sa katawan ng isang online seller sa Nueva Ecija. May ulat si Bea Bernardo.
So from Nueva Ecija, this is something that an incident that happened in Nueva Ecija. And Nueva Ecija actually, that's actually where my province and where my family comes from, specifically San Antonio and Nueva Ecija. Now it's been a long time since I've been there. I remember childhood memories where we would go over there, and my relatives lived in pretty simple bahay kubo kind of grass huts made out of bamboo and grass roofs. So they have really simple lives over there. But let's go to the rest of the video here so you can see. So I'll discuss what they talked about.
Sa bakanting lote na ito sa Nueva Ecija natagpuan ang sunog na katawan ng online seller na si Nadia Casara.
So what they just said was they found the remains of a burned body at an empty lot in Nueva Ecija. This online seller named Nadia Casara. I mean, we'll see her name come up so you can kind of Google it and look it up on your own, who she is and what happened. But to sum it up, so what the police did was so that was the remains of her body. So let's continue here what they said.
Ayon sa PNP Anti-Kidnapping Group, July 20 nang dinukot ng mga armadong lalaking sakay ng pickup truck na ito ang biktima.
So they said July 20, she was abducted by the police and using her vehicle.
Kasama ang Grab driver na hindi pinangalanan.
And when they abducted her, when they kidnapped her, there was also a driver, a Grab driver. So from my understanding, she's an online seller, businesswoman. I mean, also they didn't include this. She's one of these Muslim businesswomen. Now, if you go into a lot of these malls, these kind of what they call them, change or kind of flea markets, most of the people that work there or that sell there or the business people there are Muslims. They got and they're easy to recognize. They got their head coverings on. But for the most of the majority of the Muslim people are nice. I mean, I've dealt with a lot of business with them throughout the years, and from buying DVDs to clothes to makeup, and they're very nice people. I mean, I transact with them all the time, and they're very successful and they're very good business people. They're kind of like, you would compare to like maybe like the Jewish version of businesses, like they would be in America, but over here they're very successful when it comes to doing business. And because of the pandemic, a lot of their business has been shifted to online and to deliveries. So I assume that because of her success, the Philippine National Police, of course, became interested in her, specifically because of her money. Let's go and continue.
Mga suspect sa krimen, mga pulis na nakatalaga sa Nueva Ecija.
Na-report po sa amin ng Grab driver kasi pinakawalan siya following day. So, nag-report sa aming opisina dahil...
So, July 20th, they said the driver, after the next day, they released him so he was kind of used as a messenger. And the reason why they released him was so that he could send the message that they were asking for ransom money. And this is similar to this kind of MO is similar to what the police do. They'll kidnap somebody and then they'll extort them for money. And I have firsthand knowledge, firsthand experience with this, because I was extorted for money also while I was in prison. The police chief John Paras came to the in the middle of the night. I thought, like I said, he was going to kill me, and everybody thought that I wasn't going to come back. Why would the police be taking you out of prison in the middle of the night? And for that purpose, was number one was to extort me, was to threat. He threatened me. He said he was going to kill my wife and children if I didn't give him money. And of course, when you're in prison, you're gonna believe every threat that it's real because there's nothing you can do about it. And one of the things that you when you're in prison is you can't. One of the skills you have to learn is try not to which is impossible to do. Try not to worry about things or worry about anything because you can't do anything about it. So the next day, I told my wife about it. I told the boss what happened, to inform her that I was threatened, and to inform our attorney. And of course, my attorney was upset because that was messing with his money. It's like, that's my money now. It's all about money over here. The police want more money. And the same, the funny thing was, when I was in prison, John Pares came to visit my attorney. This was my first attorney. My first attorney is dirty as hell. But I couldn't do anything about it. You got to learn. It was a learning experience. But all attorneys are dirty. But this particular one is as slimy as slime ball gets. So he knows it's like, there's plenty of blood in the water. This is my money now. Don't mess with it. It's been turned over to me now. Of course, John Paris is upset that, like, hey, I gave you that money. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't have any work, you wouldn't have any money, and you wouldn't be, it's like I'm illegally extorting him while you're legally extorting him using, they both are trying to extort me, but now there's a conflict of interest between them. If anything happens to me, all his money would be gone. So my attorney went to the chief of police right away and says, hey, what are you doing? He's messing with my money. Why are you letting this guy in and messing with our money? If anything happens, all our money is gone, and you're going to be and I'm going to make sure you pay for it. That our money is missing. Our money is messed with, not missing. So he wasn't allowed to visit me or extort me anymore after I told him that. And another funny story was the chief Paras came to visit my attorney, and I asked him, what was your discussion was about? Why did he come? And he said, he just came over to drop off some documents, some discoveries. Yeah, that's the ticket. And I knew right away, it's like he was lying, like all liars. But for him, it was obvious. He did that. He dropped off documents for you. And I know it's like the chief needing to do that. Why couldn't he send somebody? Why did they do that? Why couldn't they send somebody? Them doing anything to help you by giving you documents? They're not doing that. What he did was he came over there and said, hey, where's my money? Where's my cut? I know he's paying you a lot of money. I know that you're extorting a lot of money from him, and you wouldn't have that money. And I'm not sure how the conversation went. It probably went somewhere in between where it's like, okay, we'll file more cases. You'll have more work. We'll file additional. And in return, you give us the share of the money that you're going to, fees that you're going to be, all the legal fees that you're going to be collecting. I don't know what happened, but it probably didn't work out. So they filed a case against them also, including human trafficking with them. But the point of this, the moral of the story is you can pretty much file any case, whatever it is that you want with them. Even though my attorney, they filed human trafficking charges against him also. That's why he ended up quitting. I have documentation of that. So anyway, back to this case about what I just wanted to say. I have first-hand knowledge of me. I was detained. I was, even though the search warrant was illegal. Speaking of search warrants, I wanted to say also, when it comes to the law here in the Philippines, they could do a search warrant on your house, and then they can take electronic equipment. But to open the electronic equipment, there's a search warrant where you just take the stuff and here it is. Right, it's pretty much, if they found guns, if they found drugs, that's pretty much it. The search warrant served its purpose. But when it comes to electronic or digital devices, you can't open it unless you have a second search warrant. So now you need to apply for a second search warrant before you can start opening the devices. You start going through my digital devices that they did not have. And we tried to suppress all my electronic devices and say, okay, look at all this. And my attorney said, well, do you have a search warrant for that? And it's like, no, we just opened it. We have a search. We said, you have a search warrant to search the house, but you don't have a search warrant to search the electronic equipment, which is the law. And that was the number one reason why one of the many reasons why we wanted to get another judge is because he allowed the evidence without a search warrant. But anyway, apparently not knowing that he already knew his decision that there was no human trafficking, whatever, and he just kind of allowed it, even though we tried to say, hey, they have no search warrant, so any fruit from the poisonous tree is not allowed. So it was a technicality that we should have been decided on our favor, but it wasn't because of this judge, because of the pressure on this case, on this situation, because there's so much attention to it, that he didn't allow, he still allowed all the evidence that was searched without a search warrant in the digital devices. So let's continue with this story.
Yung mga kidnapper nga nila ay humihingi ng ransom para dun sa click.
So they got the online Muslim seller, kidnapped her and the driver, and they let the driver go, saying, hey, you need ransom money in return if she wants to be set free. And this is where it gets messy. Let's continue.
Sa pagtutulungan ng mga opisyal na pulis sa Nueva Ecija, sumuko ang mga
So if you want to look up more information on Nadia Kasar, here's the name. So here's the suspects, police sergeants and police staff sergeants, police corporal, and so apparently these, and then here's a non-police, Dario Aligan Robarios. So these are the four that are under police custody. And apparently there are other three that are missing. So there was a total, from when I'm reading this news report, that there's there's seven total, and there's three that are still large, and three are still hiding, which is very common over here. Once you just go into hiding, you just go in on a lam, and you could do it successfully for several years, several decades. It gets to a point where nobody's going to be looking for you, but what you need to do is you just can't come back. And I probably have a story. I mean, I have a story about that, where I remember there were two young boys that were accused of gang rape, and they were on the lam for 5 years, and for 3 years they were like all over the province. They went to where did they go? Puerto Galera, the province there, not Puerto Galera itself. So they spent a year over there. Another one, they spent some time in Manila, then another some time in Pampanga, then another some time in Nueva Ecija, and they go from there to there, from like relative to relative. And after 3 years, they assumed that nobody was looking for them anymore. They went back to the place, to where they were from, and they were fine. They were working. They went back to their normal lives, as if there was as if they weren't on the lam, as if there was no arrest warrant at large for them. And then 2 years later, they were arrested. You know, he said he just came home from work one day, and then the police were waiting for him. And I go, why didn't you just, if you never came back, if you just kind of found another life somewhere else? And he said it's difficult, because just living with people that are not really your family, and when you're at large, it's like you always have to keep moving from one place to another. He said it gets kind of tiring. It's hard to trust people. You don't know if they found out, why are you there? If you're hiding, will they report to the police? But anyway, they just can't. They both of them. There were supposed to be like five of them that was part of this gang rape, and the other three just left the area and they haven't been caught since, but those two. And to finalize their case, that they were actually convicted, but it wasn't reclusion perpetua, which would be like 40 years guaranteed. It was something weird. It was like 17 years, but for them, they were young kids. The incident happened when they were 17. They were on the run and hiding for 5 years. So when they were actually in prison, they were like in 22, 23, 21. And then having to spend the rest of your 17 years, you have to serve at least a minimum of half of that, 8 years. So by the time they get out, at least they're relatively young at 30 versus someone like me. If I did get convicted or I get out, I would probably die in prison. I'd be like 80 by then. So it's the point I brought that up is the three police are go if they go into hiding, just as long as they don't come back to where the scene of the crime is, they'll never be found. But if you do come back, eventually the search warrant or the arrest warrant is gonna rotate, and people are gonna look at it. It's like, anybody have any updates or new information on this? And if they find out that there's no secrets here in the Philippines, it's a very small community. If they find out you returned to your home, then they can pick you up just easily and just wait for you to come back. So let's
Na
continue.
sina Police Staff Sergeant Benedict Reyes, Police Staff Sergeant June Malinlin, Police Corporal Julius Alcantara at isang sibilyan na inutusan umano ng mga polis na sunugin ang katawan. Nakaharap na sila sa kasong Police Corporal Julius Alcantara at isang sibilyan na inutusan umano ng mga polis na sunugin ang katawan. Nakaharap na sila sa kasong Police Corporal Julius Alcantara.
So apparently this person right here was ordered by the police, the other police, to burn the body. Now this is where it gets messy, that you have to keep in mind. This kidnap for ransom is just a front, because whenever you get involved in a kidnap for ransom, they got to get rid of all the witnesses. And so the person that they kidnapped, they're gonna ransom them. Their plan was to get the money, and since that person, this Muslim online seller businesswoman, probably has money, so their plan is to get that money and then kill they already killed the person. They already burned the body, so they're supposed to, and then they buried the burned body. So to get rid of any witnesses, and nobody is going, supposedly, how are they going to testify against you if they're dead? So this is where it gets scary, is for any kidnap for ransom involving the police, you're automatically dead. So whether you pay or not. So but people, when they're desperate, just like me, money is more important than life. But in this situation, it's once you're kidnapped by the police, it's an automatic death sentence. And what is the reason why it's an automatic death sentence? Is because there can't be any witnesses once they commit a crime. So all witnesses involved. So that's why, just like in the Believe It prison, the 10 high profile drug lords, they all died from COVID. Why? Because they're witnesses and they just knew too much, and that they started testifying. So once that starts happening, then it's automatically a death sentence. So the same thing over here. So there's no witnesses. The person that got kidnapped automatically has to be killed. But they don't know that, so they're gonna ask for a ransom anyway. And most people, 99.9% of the time, they'll give money, maybe some kind of money, just as maybe proof of life. But like I said, you never pay for proof of life. That's not how the police work over here. I mean, for example, in my situation specifically for me, I made a counter offer to the police. I said when he visited me in jail, I said, "You let me out, you help me out, you help me get out of this case, you drop this case, and I'll give you money." And he said, "No, I'm not gonna do that. You give me money first, and we'll drop the case." And that's not that's not the reality, of course. They're not only that they'll take the money, they'll continue the case and they'll continue keep adding on the case. Same thing over here. If you the police are once they get their money or they'll kill you no matter what. Whether they get the money or not, you're still dead. So that's what you have to keep in mind over here. And over what? Because of money. Okay. If the police know that you have money, they're going to take the money and they're going to kill you over money. Even if the whatever is in your wallet or is in your pocket or is in your ATM, what they're going to do, just like with the Korean businessman, is take him to the ATM, withdraw the money, and now you're a loose end. And loose ends are all murdered by police over here. So let's continue.
At isang sibilyan na inutusan umano ng mga pulis na sunugin ang katawan. Nakaharap na sila sa kasong kidnapping for ransom. Pinaghahanap naman ang dalawa pang pulis at isa pang kasabwat sa krimen. Ipinag-utos naman ang katawan. Nakaharap na sila sa kasong kidnapping for ransom. Pinaghahanap naman ang...
So those are the other people that are still at large. Police Master Sergeant and Police Staff Sergeant and another person. So as you can see, this was a group activity. There's a lot of, this is not just one police, this is a lot. So imagine if they're a committee or they're a organization over here, and imagine how often or how many times this group over here, there, as you can see, they're very organized. You know, this is the organized crime of the Philippines. This isn't just one rogue person. As you could see, this is several. This is a very well organized system that they do. This kidnap for ransom, secret jails, and for what? You know, especially now, you got police like sitting around going, okay, how do we know the people that have money? You could see them online. You could see that they're buying vehicles. When just like me, I bought a new vehicle. They still have it, and I'm already writing it off as a lost cause. But like I said, it's what about justice? What about right or wrong here in the Philippines? And there is no such thing as justice. There is no such thing as right or wrong. Justice over here means you're dead. Just like over here, they're saying for this person, they've got justice for this person. Well, you're dead. So what is justice? What does that mean? Nothing means to you. Nothing. When you're dead, it's just an emptiness. It's just a nothingness. When it comes to the living, I mean, no, I don't really need to get into any religious like what happens after you're dead. But as far as the living are concerned, which is the rest of us over here that are struggling, we need to stay alive. And the biggest concern over here is the legal criminals over here, which is the Philippine National Police. Now, I don't want to get into politics, especially with now, and it's probably made worse because of the drug war, because eventually all the drug addicts, all the drug dealers, or all the drug criminals involved, they're all going to be in prison. And what do you have left to extort money from, or extort drug money from, is now you got regular people. Now you got regular civilians like me. You got regular innocent people, because the police still need money. And where are they going to get that when all the drug dealers or all the drugs are they already smoked it, they already sold it, and now where they're going to extort more money from? And that's usually what these drug busts. When I was watching a lot of like the believed testimony and what the police are the actual protectors. So when you actually see a drug bust, this is the police double crossing their cash cows. And usually there's no secrets here in the Philippines, especially if you got millions and millions of drug meth product that are stored in a warehouse. So of course the police you're gonna tell your police protectors that, like, look, we have all this money, we need you to protect it, to make sure nothing happens to it. and it'll get to a point where they've had dealings with them, or they're very well protected. There's going to be a point where the police are going to double cross you and take that big cash cow, which is like kill the goose that laid the golden egg. Hey, why do we just keep protecting them for just a small percentage, for just protection money, when we could take the whole drugs ourselves? So when you see these big buy busts in the billions and billions, in the huge kilos and kilos. And normal thing is because they're ninja cops, just like the testimony, the ninja cops, what they'll do is they'll raid a warehouse and only report half. The other, so the half that they'll take, they'll one half of the half that they take. You're talking about if you got, let's say, 100 kilos in a big warehouse, 50 kilos they'll actually submit as evidence. The other 50 kilos they'll use personally. They'll half of it they'll use. The other half they'll sell through their assets, and those assets eventually will be killed, and then they'll replace it. There's plenty of police assets, drug assets to replace once they use it up. So that's the biggest problem. Once you turn into a police drug asset, you that's an automatic death sentence also. So they need, once you become a loose end. So here's another. So these three are at large or in hiding, and if I were them, I would just disappear, never come back, find a new life somewhere else. I mean, there's plenty of remote places here in the Philippines. Start all over from scratch. Being in prison in some jungle, being in some jungle somewhere hiding for the rest of your life is still better than being in prison while you still have your freedom.
Dalawa pang pulis at isa pang kasabwat sa krimen. Ipinag-utos naman ni PNP Chief Police General Guillermo Eliazar na sibakin agad sa serbisyo ang mga tiwaling pulis.
And he said his order was those suspects, let's go ahead and remove them from their jobs, from their positions, is what he said while they were going, while they have been filed charges against. And you could probably argue, well, they're innocent or guilty. Well, there's a dead body and there's a burned body in itself. It's not like in my situation where it's like the girl is I'm accused of rape, but the girl is a virgin that I raped her and she's still a virgin. There's something wrong over here. But in this situation, it's completely different. We've got a dead body, we've got a burned remains, and these people have to pay, are the suspects. There's actually a crime. In my situation, there is no crime. It's just one big lie to extort money. In this situation, they actually did the crime. And the crime in my situation, the police, not only extortion for money, but also the credit cards, my vehicle, carnapping, credit card fraud, and what else? Cybercrime fraud through hacking through my bitcoins.
Niyang mananagot sa batas ang mga suspect. Ipinagutos din ni Eliazar na magkaroon.
So here's a picture of the remains. I guess they it's like usually they just turn into ashes. But from my understanding, they usually just like pick an empty lot, throw the body into the ground, and then pour some gasoline on it. And maybe they were just too cheap to put in gasoline and it just didn't burn completely. But even then, it's hard to find an empty spot over here where nobody's going to notice the smell of burning body. So here it is. Let's continue with the rest of the footage. I'm actually using the iPad mini instead of this one takes too long to load up, so I'm using the iPad mini, so bear with me.
Sa Kidnap for Ransom activities, bagay na agad tutugunan ng Nueva Ecija Provincial Police Office.
I've ordered my staff, provincial police staff, administrative division, and the intelligence division to check, double check, and counter check all the backgrounds of all police personnel here in Nueva Ecija.
I'm not sure what this is all about. To check, double check. I mean, they're all. It's the culture. So this is just lip service right here. It's like that we're doing something, but after these people get removed from their jobs, there's going to be another set. They're going to continue doing this. Like I said, it's their way of life. It's how they make a living over here. And because of this current drug war, like I said, it's spilled over into the innocent civilian people, including me.
Yeah.
Ang Police Regional Office 3, binigyan ng 48 hours ang mga unit na sangkot na tugisin ang kanilang mga
Yay! You got 40 hours to locate and arrest the other suspects. And more lip service.
tauhan.
So we'll keep an eye on this and what happens. I mean, it's already been 24 hours, so another day. It's just
Bea
anyway.
Bernardo para sa Bayan.
So that's it. And my more of my thoughts and my analysis on the situation. I mean, that's the reality here in the Philippines. I mean, I can talk about how wonderful it is over here and how wonderful the people are here, which is there's plenty of other people doing that already. But what you need to know now is the other reality. If it's just as wonderful, it's also something as terrible. The other side of the coin. And it's it's getting worse and worse, and you need to know and why. Over money. I mean, if you're just going on vacation over here for like a week or 2 weeks, then it's fine. It's relatively, it takes longer than that to kidnap and to for 7 people to plan to kidnap and ransom you. So you're gonna be fine if you're just on vacation. But if you actually move here, retire here, live here on a long-term basis, eventually your biggest concern is not the criminals over here, because the criminals, they'll steal something and they're not interested in killing you. But the police, they're interested in killing you, stealing from you and killing from you so they can continue killing and stealing. They're the real criminals. They're the organized crime here in the Philippines. And as long as you have money, then they'll have every reason to kill you, to murder you over money. And why? It's just when it comes to money, the people over here, they'll do anything. They'll murder, they'll rape, they'll steal. And like I said, with my complainants right now, you saw in the document over here, I guess I'll go over the document again, that the over here, 15-year-old virgin. Now this was 3 years ago, back in 2018, 2021. 3 years later, it's pretty much guaranteed that she's not a virgin anymore. Okay, because several years later, when I saw her in court, when she was testifying, that she already had a big tattoo on her chest that you could see. So I was like saying, oh, that's new. I've never seen that before. She didn't have a tattoo when I was out of prison, but when I was in prison, she has a tattoo now. And this hymen over here, everybody can pretty much not rest assured, but surely she's not a virgin anymore. So while I was in prison, she was a virgin. Here's documentation of it. And when I went into prison, it's guaranteed that she's no longer a virgin. Why? Because she has to go sell herself. She'll get de-virginized first, and then she'll get pregnant, and how to support that, she'll go selling herself. And like I said, for money, that includes selling. For men, they'll murder. For women, they'll sell themselves for sex. So over here, the police, over here in the Philippines, because if it's a poor country, so the guys like brain dead come here because of this, because the girls will sell themselves to anyone that has money, even if you're bald, even if you're old, even if you have ugly and your personality is uglier than your than your appearance. That's what the women over there do. And the men, they murder for money. And so this is the good part over here. If you have money, you can get, if you know what you're doing, you can get a virgin. But once the virgin and the police get involved, they get together, then what you have is a rape. And what you have is a rape that never happened, and an extortion and a stealing of money that did actually happen. Here's the other stealing of money where they use my credit cards. Here, as you can see, look, $2,000, 93,000 pesos at a restaurant. Appliances, cell phones. Let's see, gadgets. This is a tablet store. This is a restaurant. This is Vivo is a cell phone store. This is sunglasses. Hey, we got to get some sunglasses. We got to get some pizza. We got to get some appliances. And then here's Walter Mart. Let's see here. How much? What's like the biggest they spent over here? What is the largest amount? I think $2,000 is probably the largest amount. Over here, you got $1,000, but spending $2,000 in a restaurant. Here's one for like 1,000, so over $1,000 at a South supermarket. That's a lot of steaks that they bought. But there's a camera store over here also. I forget where is the camera store. But anyway, Mercury Drugs. They probably bought some medicine and gas stations. So they went on a shopping spree. And the good part is I survived. This is really not as I lived. And part of that is because of, I'm not sure. Sometimes I think about it and I'm not sure. There's several reasons. I have several theories. And like I said, the reason why I didn't get killed that night was because he wanted more money. I was worth more alive than dead. Well, this person was worth more dead than alive, was more of a liability. For some reason, I survived. And I could probably go on and more theories about that, why I lived. As you can see, there's enough reasons over here to kill me. There's enough reasons over here to kill me because I wasn't gonna be stuck in jail forever, which is worse than death. So I have enough evidence over here. But I wanted to show you in the affidavit why they thought that they could still put me in prison even though the girl is a virgin, even though the girl was never human trafficked, even though I would never made all those accusations they have about me. So there's enough reason over here to kill me. But the reason is it's pretty simple, that I was worth more dead than alive. And because they wanted more money. And to this day, they still need more money and they still want more money. And if you have that money, and there's still going to be a lot more police, and they're all, and yeah, you're probably say, Bebatoni, it's not fair for you to say all police are like that. But yeah, you only need one. And for your safety, and you only need one life, do you really want to take that risk? Let's say, okay, this is the police every police that I'm going to encounter over here is not a murderer or a rapist or a thief. And for your safety, because you only had one life, you better assume for your safety, just like when surgeons go into surgery, they assume all of their patients have AIDS, even if it comes up tested negative. So same thing over here, since these surgeons only have one life. I'm not saying I have any experience in surgery whatsoever, one way or another, but I do have a lot of experience over here in the police and staying alive. Is especially if you're gonna be coming over here, if you're gonna be retiring over here, and if you're gonna be spending more than 2 weeks over here, and then you definitely have the reality of the police murdering you for your money, for the money that you're using over here to enjoy the Philippines, because you can't just enjoy the Philippines without the police getting involved. And that's what happened to me. It's like I was enjoying the Philippines so much, my cup runneth over, and the police eventually was interested in it. They wanted to steal money, and they'll put you in prisons, secret prisons, and especially murder you for it. So that's the reality over here. So for everybody who's coming to the Philippines and they're like, oh, I'm not going to get involved in any of those things. No man is an island. If you stay here long enough, you'll get hit by the police also. Same thing with Brain Dead. He actually welcomed the police and to get the police involved, getting me involved, attacking my family. So now the police are also going to get involved in his life also if you stay here long enough. So while he has time, my advice to Brain Dead is get the F out. But it's not so easy when you've got now a big ball and chain that you got trapped to get out. I think the bachelor, another one of his bachelor course graduates got the hell out. So my advice to you, while you still have time, get the hell out, because the police are going to be part of your life sooner rather than later. Anyway, so this is another police kidnap for ransom, murder, and then still ask for ransom. Just like this is not an isolated incident, this is a common incident. And this could happen to you just like it happened to the Korean businessman. And the reason, number one reason that why is because if you have money, then they have every reason to kill you because they need money. And over here in the Philippines, I always say, and everywhere, is you can't trust anyone that needs something from you. And that's why I'm the only one that can be trusted. So in the whole entire country is if they need something from you, then you can't trust them. So that's probably one of the questions in the was that did I make any friends in no, you can't make any friends in prison because it's in prison. They're not, they're just people that will, everybody is over there to take advantage of each other. It's like, what is to get benefits from each other? What is the benefit to becoming on your to be friends with you? And there, it's like there's no trust. If there's no trust, there is no friendship, and there's nobody you can trust over here in the Philippines. Not relatives, and not people you do business with, and especially the police, because they're, as you can see, they're murderers, they're rapists, they're extortionists, they're kidnappers. They're the organized crime here in the Philippines, and that's just normal. And for you to think otherwise will be to your detriment and the life. And just keep that in mind because the life you save is your own. Anyway, this is Bebels Only. Let me know what you think. We have another kidnap for ransom organized by the organized crime over here. In this situation, in all situations, in my situation, it's the Philippine National Police. This is ongoing. Somebody's doing it again. Somebody's doing it now. And just make sure you know this information to decrease the chances of it happening to you. And why, as long as you have money, they have a reason to murder you. Anyway, this is Bebels Only. I will go into my own documentation also of how far they will go. I keep going to their affidavits. Now, an affidavit, from my understanding, an affidavit is a legal law. It's like they're saying that the truth, and it's actually illegal, and it's actually a crime to lie on an affidavit, and I could actually pursue that. And that's just something that I'm kind of tossing around here and there. It's like they lied on their affidavits so I could go to prison. So that's something to think about. If you're caught in a lie in an affidavit, you could actually, it's a crime. I don't know how far or how I would have to consult somebody on that. But like I said, I have some unfinished business still I need to do. Once that happens, I will go on the offensive, including brain dead. And as a token, I'll throw it. While I'm there, I'll add Chris and Cebu's name in there also. So that's the update. That's the reality here in the Philippines. Another kidnap for ransom by organized crime here in the Philippines. Look it up if you want more information. Nadia Casar. This is Bebels Only. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.